Sometimes the most revealing moments happen when nobody is trying to reveal anything at all. No red carpet. No sit-down interview with a producer whispering, "Just be honest," in someone's ear. Just two people who have been married for nearly 30 years, sitting behind a familiar desk, talking about something as ordinary as bank accounts, and somehow, in the span of a few unscripted minutes, telling us more about their marriage than a dozen glossy profiles ever could. That's exactly what happened when Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos sat down for a recent episode of Live and found themselves, almost by accident, discussing the term financial infidelity. It's a phrase that sounds dramatic on paper, but what unfolded on screen wasn't a scandal. It was something quieter, and honestly something a lot more interesting. A real married couple worth a combined fortune reported at around $160 million, admitting on live television that even they don't tell each other everything. And that's the moment worth slowing down on. Because underneath the laughter, underneath the banter these two have built an entire career on, there was something almost startlingly honest happening in real time. Here's how it unfolded. The conversation started innocently enough. A segment about how more couples today are choosing to keep separate bank accounts instead of merging everything into one. It's a modern relationship trend, the kind of thing that shows up in think pieces and financial advice columns. But Mark, ever the one to poke at the deeper implication of a topic, brought up a specific risk that can come with separate finances. The possibility of what's sometimes called financial infidelity, where one partner quietly keeps the other in the dark about where money is actually going. And then, almost without missing a beat, Kelly admitted it. She said she isn't exactly forthcoming about her own spending. Mark's response was almost too calm. He simply assumed the money was going somewhere and didn't push further. Kelly then went a step beyond a simple admission. She explained that she has an entire cover story ready, just in case he ever asks a real question. Something so smooth and rehearsed, she said, that he'd never even suspect it was a story at all. Now, if you strip away the humor for a second, that's a genuinely fascinating exchange. Because what Kelly was describing wasn't secrecy in the way we usually think of it in relationships. It wasn't hiding something shameful. It was something closer to playful autonomy, the idea that after decades together she still keeps a small, private corner of her life just for herself. And what's remarkable is that Mark didn't flinch. He didn't demand details. He shrugged it off with something like amused acceptance, as if to say, "That's just who she is and I'm okay with that." That reaction alone tells you something about why audiences have stayed loyal to this couple for so long. It's not because their marriage is flawless or free of friction. It's because they let viewers see the actual texture of a long marriage. The parts that are messy, funny, occasionally a little evasive, and completely real. Think about why a moment like this resonates the way it does. Most of us have had some version of that exact conversation, whether it's about money, time, or something as small as what we actually did on a random Tuesday afternoon. There is a universal, slightly guilty relatability in Kelly's confession. Almost everyone watching probably recognized a piece of themselves in it, that instinct to smooth over a purchase, to avoid an uncomfortable follow-up question, to protect a small piece of independence inside a shared life. Kelly didn't perform vulnerability for the cameras. She just said the quiet part out loud, the way you might with a close friend rather than a national television audience. And that's really the through line of Kelly and Mark's entire on-air chemistry. They don't perform a perfect marriage. They perform a real one, narrated with humor instead of tension. When you watch them together, you're not watching two celebrities recite talking points. You're watching two people who happen to be married, who happen to know each other's timing so well that a joke about spending habits can land as both funny and quietly tender at the same time. It's worth pausing on the numbers too, if only because they add an unexpected layer to the story. Reports have placed Kelly's individual net worth at roughly $120 million, with Mark's closer to $40 million, putting their household fortune around that widely cited $160 million mark. For most people, wealth on that scale might seem like it would remove the small, everyday frictions of a relationship. Arguments about spending, curiosity about where money disappears to, the instinct to keep a receipt hidden in a coat pocket. But what this moment on Live proved is that money at any scale is never really about the number. It's about trust, autonomy, and the small negotiations every couple works out over time. Kelly and Mark just happened to work theirs out in front of a studio audience. There's something almost comforting in that. It would have been easy for a couple with their level of success to present a polished, conflict-free version of married life, the kind of we tell each other everything narrative that sounds nice but rarely reflects reality. Instead, they did the opposite. They admitted, cheerfully and without shame, that even after nearly 30 years together, some things stay just slightly private. And somehow that felt more honest than any perfectly rehearsed relationship advice ever could. This isn't the first time Kelly and Mark have used their platform to peel back a layer of their domestic life in a way that feels unusually candid for daytime television. They've talked openly about lending money to their adult children and gently holding them accountable for paying it back. They've joked about how differently they budgeted for their daughter compared to their sons, admitting, half guiltily, half proudly, that she got a little extra care and feeding along the way. They've even reflected on old wounds, like Kelly's memory of Mark being paid more than her almost immediately after he joined the soap opera where they first met, a detail she's brought up more than once, not out of bitterness, but as a marker of how far their industry and their partnership have both evolved. Each of these moments, on their own, might seem like small television filler, throwaway banter between segments. But stacked together they form a pattern. Kelly and Mark aren't just hosts who happen to be married. They are, whether intentionally or not, offering viewers an ongoing real-time case study in what a long, imperfect, deeply functional marriage actually looks like. Not the highlight reel. The whole thing. The teasing, the eye rolls, the moments where one partner clearly knows more than they're letting on, and the other one lets it go because after enough years together, you learn which battles are actually worth fighting. And maybe that's the real reason this financial infidelity moment struck a chord with so many viewers. It wasn't really about money at all. It was about watching two people demonstrate, without even trying to make a point of it, what emotional security in a marriage can look like. Mark wasn't threatened by Kelly's admission. He didn't need to know every detail to feel secure in their relationship. And Kelly wasn't confessing out of guilt, she was sharing a piece of herself with the kind of ease that only comes from knowing, deep down, that the relationship can hold it. There's a lesson buried in there for anyone watching, whether they're newly married, decades into a partnership, or not in one at all. Trust doesn't always mean total transparency. Sometimes it means giving each other enough room to be a little bit mysterious, a little bit independent, without that space threatening the foundation underneath it. Kelly keeping a story totally prepared isn't really about deception. It's a small act of self-preservation inside a very public marriage. A marriage that's been dissected, watched, and commented on for nearly 3 decades. It's easy to forget, watching two people bicker playfully about nickels or missing $20 bills or vague spending habits, that Kelly and Mark have built an entire career out of letting the public into their life in exactly this way. Since Kelly stepped into that co-host chair back in 2001, and especially since Mark joined her full-time, their show has functioned less like a traditional talk show and more like a long-running, unscripted window into a real marriage, one that happens to be filmed in front of a live audience every single morning. That's a rare thing in entertainment. Most celebrity couples carefully curate what the public sees. Kelly and Mark, by contrast, seem to have leaned all the way into the opposite instinct, inviting viewers to laugh at their inside jokes, wince at their honest confessions, and occasionally sit with the quiet realization that their marriage, for all its glamour and success, runs on the same fundamental things every marriage runs on: compromise, humor, a little bit of mystery, and an enormous amount of trust that doesn't need to be explained to hold together. So maybe the real story here isn't the $160 million, or the phrase financial infidelity, or even the specific confession itself. Maybe it's the fact that after almost 30 years, Kelly Ripa can still surprise her husband on live television, and he can still respond with nothing but ease, humor, and quiet trust. Perhaps that's the reason so many people remain invested in Kelly and Mark. Not because they've spent decades in the spotlight, but because audiences keep catching glimpses of something genuine in the way they move through life together. Imperfect, funny, occasionally evasive about a receipt or two, but unmistakably real. So here's the real question worth sitting with. Do you think a little bit of financial mystery in a relationship is healthy independence, or does it cross into something couples should be more careful about? Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you've got a favorite Kelly and Mark moment that says something deeper about their marriage, we'd genuinely love to hear it.